Yeah, I'm really experiencing like the full range of being met in all of my parts here. Um, my masculine part is being so completely and totally met in all of the um, business work connections that are dropping in the pieces that I have been needing to be able to carry out the visions and dreams that I've had for a really long time. In both, I have two different realms that I work in, the realm of lawyers, where I created a new law business model when I was in private practice, and I now teach that new law business model to lawyers. And so I do that through the part of me that is Alexis Neely, and and then I have this work that I'm bringing into the world called Eyes Wide Open, that supports people to build their lives and incomes awake, aware, and on their terms, but really supports people to live awake, aware, and on their terms. And I'm having a relaunch of that very shortly. And one of the things that I've wanted to do with that model is, instead of relaunching it as a single owner, privately owned company, which I know how to do really well, to create a share the wealth collective stewardship model, which I don't know how to do very well. And I put the whole company on hold 4 years ago because I realized I had more internal development to do to be able to work well with others. And so I've been doing that now over the past 4 years, and I'm ready. Like, I've got the internal fortitude and the understanding of collaboration and shadow, where shadow comes up to prevent collaboration, and how to work with those pieces and stay present and meet people in their emotions and in their upsets, and surface the things and then move through them for our growth, learning, and evolution. And so I'm now also meeting all of the people that are holding the technologies to support both of these initiatives, serving the lawyers in the next level that we're going to there, as well as bringing the Eyes Wide Open Collective online, and really creating a place where people can find their tribe and fund their revolution, because so much of it is about that. It's like the base levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've got to have our foundational level security needs met in order to be able to focus on belonging. And then we've got to be able to have our tribe and our belonging needs met to be able to truly focus on self-actualization, why we are here. So my systems, my ecosystem that I'm creating for the we, is to hold that bottom level, but within the tribe context, so that people can really remember who they are, why they're here, and what's theirs to do. So all of that is dropping in perfectly, all the right connections, all the right partners, all the right heart, and that really serves my masculine part. This, more Alexis Neely part of me, business, money, and then there's this other part, which is my feminine part, and just getting worse. I'm like really longing to be met in partnership at all the levels, and I'm really complex. And I had a whole experience at Burning Man that showed me that the way that I have been, holding that has been, which I already knew. It's immature feminine, and so I've been moving through into my adulthood in many different areas, and this one is still young. It's really young, and so this might be too much of a reveal, but I came here having been through an experience at Burning Man where I was letting go of my promiscuity, which was, one way that I get connection, and it's actually in one way in which I control, because I'm powerful there. And so instead of actually being in real intimacy, I can just go to sexuality. So I worked with a lot of that at Burning Man, and then coming here, I did not have any expectation of connecting with anybody sexually at all. Like, that was not on my radar at all. And then two men showed up that are holding opposite ends of a pole, and one of them just showing me a lot of what I think that I want, but also triggering my not having. And then another one like really showing up and like kind of a lot in like kind of in my space. And then I think I don't want that, but and anyway, I'm just like, working that big edge in myself as my masculine and feminine parts are integrating and aligning. And last night we did a ceremony, 22 women in this beautiful temple that was erected. And it's so interesting because it was the Cosmic Heart Temple, which came from Burning Man, which was such a sacred place there and really made Burning Man worth it for me this year. And then having it come here, and it got here late, and then it was like took a long time to set up. And then I'm like, this is only going to be up for 2 days. Like, is that really a good use of resource? And then having had this ceremony unfold in there last night, it was all worth it. Like, and so much of this has been that, right? We're in this emergent field with a lot of chaos, and our work here is to hold center in the midst of the chaos, because we're in training for that. So we can hold center in the midst of the chaos of what's happening on the planet right now and show up as the models that so many people need and don't have. And so all my parts are being met in really beautiful ways, and I'm getting to feel the full range of everything. And that I am feeling more aligned. Everything that I have been doing in the world up until now has been in training for this, to be here now.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that like this gathering like that has also helped you bring that like more into alignment, or has it just revealed what there is for you?
I mean, I've been doing this work for a long time, of integrating the masculine and the feminine. I first discovered my feminine for the first time. I'll be 45 in November. So, and when I was around 32, 33 years old, I didn't have any relationship with my feminine before that. So I've been in cultivation of this thing called the feminine. What is that? Who is she, and can I trust her? And just working with the very wounded inner child, the little girl who has so many needs that were never met, that I was never taught to meet. And then the sexual priestess and the sacred prostitute, and and then the queen. And what I feel has happened here is, and the mother, huge one. What I feel has happened here is that there's actually a space for all of those parts of my feminine to be online. So I can be in my full queen and yet still reveal my little girl. That isn't usual in most spaces. I'm holding one clear archetype in most spaces because that's really all that people can handle. They can handle one. But here, there's actually space and range for the full expression of all of me, masculine and feminine, and then within my feminine, all the different parts. Masculine is kind of more, there's one, Alexis Neely. But within my Ali Shanti, which is really what holds my feminine, there's many different, there's this little Ali, and then there's Queen Shanti, and then, there's Mama Ali. And, so there's just that full range is able to be met here, unlike most spaces. So then that gives me the opportunity to meet myself and to practice and to move through the emotions and the waves, stay in the fire, give it over to the fire, let go, surrender, come back. It's like we're learning to ride these waves together, and it's in all of us, all of these parts. This is not just me, it's all of us. We're all learning how to meet all of this in ourselves and then in each other, in right relationship with the planet.
And all of that, I feel like, is tied into life's purpose. Can you speak a little bit to that, on the empowerment of people? I just see a big division of like, this is my work life, this is my home life.
Yeah.
this is my secret life, you know, or whatever, whatever it is.
Totally. Yeah, I had that division for so long, right? So, you know, I've been on a path of ascension or enlightenment, whatever, for many years now. I, you know, first kind of, I think, started waking up in 2004-ish when, you know, I had graduated first in my class from Georgetown Law, gotten the job at the big law firm, 6-figure paycheck, gotten married, had my first child, bought our first house, 28 years old, and like, okay, this is life? Something else. You know, so my first like, and deep profound loneliness at that time, just heart wrenching loneliness because I couldn't see anything else. Like this was it, and I did it, and then here I'm like 28 years old and I feel dead. I'm lonely. That was really the worst part. So alone, even though I had a family. And so this, you know, first level of awakening, I was called very clearly to find a church, which was weird because I'm Jewish and was raised to believe that God was for stupid people. But here I am, like, I'm supposed to find a church, and I ultimately find Agape International Spiritual Center, and I awaken to, oh, God is the love intelligence that governs the universe. Okay, that kind of God, yes. And as soon as I walked into Agape, I was like, this is home. And oh, my mind creates reality. I create reality. I can create reality. Okay, what do I want to create? And then seeing it happen, seeing like finding the perfect place, finding the perfect office that I wanted to grow my law practice in when I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur, which is a big shocker. You know, and so playing with like, okay, how do I do this creation thing? So I didn't even know about Ali Shanti at any of that time. I was Alexis Neely, 3 names, like, you know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Sandra Day O'Connor, like all the powerful women have these 3 names. And I began to start to see that there was a split in my personalities, in my beings, when I went to Burning Man for the first time in 2008. And that by that time I had built $1 million law practice. I had written a best-selling book. I had been doing TV as Alexis Neely. I had built some level of celebrity, so I'd kind of won the fame and fortune path. And there was a tremendous amount of conflict in my business. And ultimately what I discovered is that there was a representation outside of me of the internal conflict that was in me. And I was just projecting it out because I couldn't own it inside of me because it was like, I didn't even know what it was. And through a long process, first coming to ayahuasca and seeing in that first journey a world that works for everyone, and then coming home to see how I was creating a world that works only for me, I began to discover other parts of myself, and how then I started to live split lives. But what I really wanted was integration. What I really wanted was to bring it all together. I did not know how that was going to happen. And I thought I had to kill off the old part of me in order to allow for the integration. And in fact, many people told me that I needed to. When Ali Shanti came online and I started living Ali Shanti out publicly in the world, many said, you have to kill Alexis Neely. You can't have both. And I was like, no, that would be like chopping off my arm. Like, Alexis Neely is me and Ali Shanti is me, and I'm going to learn how to live them both fully in the world. Even though nobody has done that, maybe David D'Angelo and Evan Pagan, he's, you know, guy, anyway, 2 different names, 2 different businesses, but those were not integrated. Those were 2, but that was like a little bit of a model for me. But there was nothing that was integrated, really, that I could see out there. But I knew that I had to be that. And what I have learned about life purpose is that, first of all, we're all always on it. We're all always on our life path, even if we're doing something that is soul-sucking, that is just for the money. And that, too, is part of the journey. Now, people can choose to stay stuck there and never progress, and that too is part of the journey, and that's a choice. I think it is a choice to die while alive, but it is a choice. Many people don't see that they have that choice. But I believe in order to even be able to see that that choice exists, we all have a first level of life purpose work to do that is actually collective and the same. It doesn't have to do with what is the work you're doing in the world at this first level. Until you've done this first level of life purpose work, whatever you're doing is actually irrelevant. And that first level of life purpose work is to meet the wounded parts that need to be healed. And those wounded parts can be met in parenting, in relationship, in work, and money, in business. There's so many different ways for us to meet those wounded parts. But until we meet those wounded parts, every decision we make about our life purpose or our work or money or anything will come from the wound. And we will continue to do all the things, do all the doing to avoid feeling the fullness of the wound and healing that wound. And so what we create will be part of the ongoing fracture. I did that for many, 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 many years. And that was also part of the life path, and perfect. That all needed to happen exactly as it happened for me to be sitting here now to know that there's these wounded parts of myself that have been passed on for many generations, and they've landed in me because I'm the first to have the resource, the time, the energy, the attention, and the money. I call these our team resources. To have the team resources available to provide the space for me to meet the wounds. And we actually all have that now. That is, I believe, why we are collectively here now. And as part of meeting these wounds and no longer avoiding them, again, whether we do it through the parenting, through the relationship, through the business, through the money, through the work, through our own relationship with our parents, through the intergenerational wealth transfer, no matter how we do it, doing that work will allow us to remember who we are, why we're here, and what's ours to do. And then individual life purpose starts to come online. Individual, like, what is mine to do with the collective, as opposed to doing the healing for the collective. So that's a big thing that I want people to really understand, ideally faster than I did. When I first started my own law practice, it was 2003. My son had just been born, so now I had 2 kids, and I didn't know anything about business, and went out on my own, and I did this purpose exercise as part of this coaching program I was in, and you get your purpose in 2 words, life purpose in 2 words, and mine was shine light. I was a lawyer, and I just started my own practice, and I had a whole family to support, mortgage and kids, stay-at-home dad, husband, and I'm supposed to shine light? What the heck does that mean? And yeah, it took me a long time to know what that means, and I would like people to know what that means for themselves a lot more quickly, and for them to be a lot more aware of the resources supporting them through the process, because I went through all those waves dragging a tremendous amount of scarcity with me, that had I worked on that and healed that sooner, my path would have been far easier and faster, and maybe I would have been going into all of this in my mid-30s instead of my mid-40s, and I trust the timing and all of it, but I'm energetically different now. So I would have liked to have gotten that sooner if possible, and I want to give that to people sooner if possible, so that they can just use those mid-30s time, which is such fertile time, to really be doing the work that they are here to do without dragging the wounds along, which are heavy.
And is, just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
So your Newark company that's coming online, is that in part of that mission of you shining your light?
Yeah.
Is illuminating those parts of you that you kind of wish were eliminated earlier for people, like to give them the tools and the platform to have the type of support so they can take those steps?
Yeah, so I see the first level that is necessary to be able to meet our wounded parts to have your basic security needs met. A lot of people talk about doing that through a UBI model. I need to explore that model more. I don't know that that's the answer, mostly because I have seen my kid's dad, who is family to me. We got divorced more than 10 years ago, but we still live together. I have seen what UBI looks like. He receives basically UBI from a trust that he receives $2,000 a month. And in many ways, that has robbed him of the motivation to actually do his own internal work, because he can always just get by with that. And so he hasn't had to meet some of those parts that he would otherwise have to meet in order to generate his own basic income needs. Now, in a way, he has, because he lives with me. So I pay that $2,000 a month is kind of like disposable income for him, because I cover all of the basic expenses. And he certainly has had to meet some core wounds in order to stay in relationship with me all these years. So in a way, he has. But I really do see there being a benefit in people being able to meet their need to provide for themselves. There's so much learning and growth and evolution there. And so I've created a platform called Eyes Wide Open that has a teaching embedded in it called the Money Map. And the Money Map is a 2-phase program, the first of which teaches you to know what you need and to know what you want, and to be able to separate those two, but to be really grounded in both of those. And then to know what you have to give: time, energy, attention, and money. To know what you have to give so that you can create a resource flow model for yourself using these 8 entrepreneurial archetypes that I've identified, each of which is a resource flow model for exchanging what you have to give at this current moment, which changes throughout your life, by the way, in exchange for what you need at this current moment very cleanly. And so the first step is to go through this clarity phase where you get grounded in a new understanding of time, energy, attention, money, the resources you have, your own needs and wants, with a lot of truth telling to yourself, because that's where it all starts. It starts in this very deep foundation of truth, curing something that I call money dysmorphia. Money dysmorphia is where we lie to ourselves. We have a distorted view of our finances, our financial reality, as well as our time, energy, and attention reality, that causes us to make poor decisions about how we use our non-renewable resources of time, energy, and attention in service to money, which is infinitely renewable when we know how to access it cleanly and clearly. So this process clears out the old, brings in the clarity of what's true. Then there's a second phase, which is strategy. So once you know what you need, what you have to give, and how to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give in a specific resource flow model, now it's time to go out and strategize how to build each of the pieces. For example, how are you going to price and package your services? What are you asking for? What is the clean and clear exchange? How are you going to reach an audience of people, whether it's an audience of one or an audience of many? What is the right way to do that? Because there's so many ways we can market, but you don't need to know all the ways. You just need to know the way that's right for your resource flow model. What are the enrollment structures? We all need to learn enrollment. Whether we're enrolling one person in, whether we're enrolling our child into doing something, or whether we're enrolling a whole bunch of people into a teaching, or whether we're enrolling somebody and hiring us, enrollment is one of the most important skills we can have. We don't need to learn all the enrollment methods. We need to learn the one that is right for the resource flow model where we are right now. And then we need to learn how to collaborate, how to build teams, and also how to be on a team. Many people in our community don't know how to be on teams. We're really good at being lone wolves. We're really good at exercising agency and independence, sovereignty, but we don't really know how to do unity. So how do we be on a team together in sovereign unity? I am my sovereign self, and I'm part of this collective. and who, are all of the people on the team. And then some very basic foundational legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems. I have a bigger course that teaches way in depth, but this is like the intro to just the basics of what you need to just get your resource flow model up and running. And then a 90-day strategic planning process that has allowed me to create pretty much everything that I've created. I'll put things on my 90-day, actually helps you look out 3 to 5 years. Everything that I put on there for 3 to 5 years happened within year one because of this 90-day strategic planning process. And so it teaches that. So money map phase 1 is clarity. Money map phase 2 is strategy. And once people go through it, learn it, and apply it, either they could do it yourself or supported, they can then plug into the ecosystem and begin to teach it or offer it to others in the world, depending on what their entrepreneurial archetype is, and start to next level learn to apply, because so much of we learn by doing, or we learn by teaching. And so you can plug in, and I'm creating basically a guild system that will represent each of the different entrepreneurial archetypes and where people are learning and where they're teaching and applying. And so it's really an ecosystem where we can plug in, learn, apply, teach, offer, have our needs met, give what's ours to give, and then be able to grow out of the system. So not creating any sort of dependency, but grow out of the system and then bring your work out of the system back into the ecosystem. So creating really this toroidal field where, there's full support, full needs being met, full gifts given, and we're really able to create a world that works for everyone.
I would love for you to speak about how, because I'm basically speaking to how gatherings like this are affecting, obviously I can see what you're doing. Do you have any thoughts on as the collective, what this looks like more on a larger scale, a global scale?
What is our collective legacy that's contributing to the world that works for everyone?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I believe that what we are doing here and what we've been doing for many years is gathering together soul tribe who all really not only desire to create a world that works for everyone, but have the codes. And so each of these times that we come together is a maybe it's like the way when the tribes came together in the past to work with resources, to talk about what resources, where's the hunting, where are the animals, what do we need to look out for, so that was happening in the past, and in a way that is happening again now, where we are coming together and we're learning from our elders. We are carrying forward that which is true and also evolving that which needs to be left behind. And then we are finding our co-creative partners that have the different pieces of what we all need. And in these years that we've been doing this, whether it's through Burning Man or other gatherings like this, Superhero Academy events and Vision Festival, we are first of all healing our own wounds. I have never met a community of people that could hold me in my wounded spaces and understand me and meet me there with compassion as I grew. And so that is happening. So there's a lot of young people in this community who have huge capacity to create, but maybe don't yet have the ability to communicate so well in a challenging situation. A lot of issues around boundary setting. A lot. What I've noticed is a lot of people who are very heart open don't really know how to set clear boundaries. And when that's the case, there can be, and certainly is in the mainstream world, we are seeing it with the Me Too movement, a tremendous amount of getting stuck in the victim, hero, perpetrator model. And so part of what we're learning is how do we pop out of that so that each person is able to take 100% full responsibility for themselves, knowing that part of what's happening is these wounds are coming up to be met and healed. Like, I can't heal any wound that I have not felt fully. So thank you, person who did that thing that allowed me to feel the thing that I've been avoiding for so long so that I can heal it. Now, what's really great about this is a safe container for that. Like, there's not rape happening here. Boundary violations? Yes, of course. We are people living in very tight space. And we don't necessarily yet know what our own boundaries are. So, yeah, somebody might inadvertently cross a boundary that they didn't know I had, that I didn't even know that I had. We're doing cuddle puddles, you know? So, a very safe space to be able to notice, oh, my boundary was just crossed. Great, now I know there's a boundary there. Now I can communicate it to that person in a way that's honoring of them and like, hey, this thing happened and my boundary got crossed, and I get that you didn't know that I had a boundary, and I didn't even know that I had a boundary, but now I do, and so I'd like to make a request that next time we're in the cuddle puddle, you know, you don't put your hand on my breast, or, you know, that's like, what a gift to be able to learn how to do that in this safe space. So I think that's part of what we're doing. Part of what we're doing at these events is learning to live with each other, to work with each other through these and meet these wounds. And then I think what we are also doing is we are bringing together the code holders to create the infrastructure to create a world that works for everyone. And that means in our current system of politics and government, we have people here that are holding that through our One Nation family, and they are strategizing and attracting the co-creators who want to work in the current paradigm to be able to meet what is there. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the parallel system builders who are building the parallel systems of how can we all come together to give our gifts and have our needs met, which requires a completely new thing that we don't know yet, with decentralized autonomous organizations and decentralized leadership and moving beyond hierarchy and cryptocurrency and blockchain. And how do all these things come together to create something that we can all plug into that is land-based and utilizing technology and having it all in right relationship so that we can truly collaborate in this new paradigm. So we're holding the full spectrum here. And what I just absolutely love about this gathering in particular is the amount of diversity that is here in the space, so that so many different voices are getting represented as we are building these things. You know, if we just build them in the bubble of whiteness, it's not going to create a world that works for everyone, because we will have blind spots. And so to be able to bring in the elders and the indigenous and you know, the disenfranchised and, you know, all the different places that people come from and what they're bringing, I haven't really seen anything quite like it, where so much is coming together, like galactivated people and really earth-based people and, you know, all the different elements. We're creating something that has never existed before.
You just answered my second question.
I saw you shaking your head.
I was like, you know, that I was going, I've been trying to bring in that diversity component, because I feel such a deep appreciation and just realization of how important it is to have, you know, just such a cross-generational, diverse people of all color thing. And I think I've noticed too, a lot of the minority groups represented, think about the other minority groups maybe that aren't represented.
Yes.
And it's like, yes, well, what about the two spirits? What about the three spirits? What about,
yes.
what about, maybe there's not anybody here that fits that exact thing,
yes.
but we need to think about them and how we represent them. And that's a beautiful, I've never seen it before.
Yeah, and what I love is that it's all rubbing up against each other in ways that are, again, allowing us to heal these wounds. You know, so the indigenous grandmothers who are seeing the way these white women show up and calling it out, but then at the same time, the very next day, bringing the arms of compassion around it to say, yeah, I brought this out in a way that may have been hard for you to hear, and I love you. And I love you. And now let's go into the sweat lodge together and pray. Wow. Like, it's really, yeah. And I'm hearing the beautiful music, and allowing the music each night to just bring us back into our hearts, and to heal the hurts. And we're all staying in. Like, that to me is also something that's really different. Like, as triggers come up, people stay in. They're staying in. Now, I don't know if that's across the board, and everybody hits their limits of capacity to stay in, but there is a staying connected in the hurt here, again, also far more than I have seen anywhere else.
No, it's absolutely true. I haven't actually. Yeah, I see it now that you pointed out, because a lot of times people come to like conferences and summits, and they're in the rooms and they're doing the thing and they're facilitating, we're collaborating, we're doing all these things, and then they go back to their hotel room and then they bitch about the thing that triggered them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they complain, and or however it plays out to their family member or to their other tribe, and it doesn't allow us to really look at it, and not just look at it. I'm watching it being healed, like person to person. It's beautiful. Yeah,
again, there's so much healing that's happening here by being able to meet ourselves in our shortcomings. Because of course we have shortcomings. We're learning, growing, evolving beings, and so there's again a safe space to experiment and fail, and we're going to keep coming back together. So I'm already dreaming into the next event. I hope it will be a collective legacy event. I hope that it will be at Eden Hot Springs, which is one of my favorite lands on the planet. It's the first place that I ever fell in love with land. It is a private land, so I'll need to, call in the prayer for that access and identify the dates. And now that I've seen, this is the first event, and, David and Loka are amazing, and they took on more than what was theirs to do, not knowing that they were doing that. It's a very common thing that we do. So I want to reallocate some of the things that were not theirs to do to others far in advance, and really just allow them to hold the parts that are theirs. David being a super galactivated being out there meeting people and bringing them into the field, going out and finding all the right people and bringing them. And Aloka, really let him fully hold the ceremonial container. Like, if that was all he had to do, he could have really brought that to bridge between the indigenous relatives and those of us who don't know the indigenous ways. And because he was so focused on everything else, I don't think that got held as well as it could have. So if we take everything else off their plates and we do all of the production and all of the logistics and all of the financials and just have them hold those two parts, and it's at the hot springs, oh my goodness, I just am very excited about that.
I can already tell what's going to happen.
And apparently the collective is also really excited about that.
Absolutely.
And what's really interesting about that is that in 2011, I held an event there. I did not know what I was doing at all. It was for 50 people. It was called Eden Unplugged. Just come, we're going to figure it out. And every person that left there left transformed. Many of them that I'm still in deep connection with, many of them that are doing their next level work in the world. And now to have that happen 7 years later, a full cycle later, to have the next evolution. Like, I met Elijah Ray there for the first time. And anyway, it just feels like, whoa, full circle. I just got chills. Full circle, next level, collective legacy. And I guess I just want to say one other thing on the global view. Like, we are building the infrastructure, I believe, that will allow us to create a world that works for everyone. We're in the building phase, though. It's like really important to remember. And we're building something that has never been in existence before. And so continuing to hold that global view of a world that works for everyone, and each of us finding our individual role in that, is really critical.
thank you for being so vulnerable.
Yes.
A lot of people get in front of a camera or an interview and they put it on their edited self.
Totally. Yeah, I've been in training for this my whole life. I have been living into the story so that and learning how to bring this and my vulnerability and all of it so that we can tell this story in a way that will be able to reach people who need to feel what's happening. They're there, they are me. They are me looking where I know there's got to be something more. Where are my people? I'm so alone. I'm so lonely. Where? And they can't see us right now because we have not yet identified how to tell the story in a way that we are seeable. And I believe that so much of our learning happens through the entertainment that we consume. And the entertainment that we consume right now is in the form of, the Real Housewives and that whole kind of ilk that shows a way of being that is not what is going to create a world that works for everyone. And in order, I believe, to really reach the people that are looking, we have to create content that is from the heart, where we are vulnerably ourselves. And I've wanted it for so long, but the truth is, had I created it at any other time, what I would have been perpetuating the old. I wasn't ready. It isn't until right now, actually, that I am the woman that I'm proud to show now. Anything that would have happened before, even though I wanted it mentally to happen before, it would have been a distortion, a continued perpetuation of that which we don't want to create. Freedom culture means to me full sovereignty in a container of unity. So we each get to be all of who we are, full spectrum, and we are fully aware of our impact on others and the planet. And so it's the highest level of personal responsibility, financial liberation, having all of our needs met while also giving all that is ours to give. And when we are part of freedom culture fully, all of ourselves in full alignment, I do believe that is when we will have the foundational template for a world that works for everyone.